Now, you've both been to Myanmar, this military coup, pretty troubling. If you look at the recent history of the country, is it unfortunately looking like the normal way of things is restored and it'll be hard to change?
That's probably, unfortunately, an analysis that is fairly accurate, Tom. The return, I think, formally of the authoritarian nature, autocratic military dictatorship in the regime is pretty much clear and unfortunate for the people of Myanmar, but also for democracy, because there was the beginnings and the flourishings of a nascent democracy in that country that has been stamped out. From our perspective, I think the Australian government should be talking about sanctions on the Tatmadaw, which is the Myanmar military, look at ending that defence program that we've had with them. Labor's call for that as well. Looking at also Australian companies and the business that they do there. They shouldn't be benefiting the military regime that has taken over there.
So that's the logical step. Is there pause for thought? Does that drive Myanmar into the arms of China?
Oh, it's already there.
But further?
The relationship further, how much further can it go? We're talking about a regime, a military that has basically snuffed out even the small little buds of, democracy that were blooming over the last couple of years, just basically ran out of patience with Aung San Suu Kyi and the movement. To the extent that democracy wasn't even a full one anyway, 25% of the seats in Parliament reserved for the military. So they've shown their hand very clearly. And they're an authoritarian military dictatorship.
What do you think of those moves, Trent?
Well, Peter and I travelled to Myanmar together as part of a Save the Children delegation, and what struck me, as Peter as well, I'm sure, was just the enthusiasm for the people of Myanmar for what was still a nascent democracy, and we know that there's been activism against the brutal military rule for decades now. So I think most people in Myanmar are going to be devastated by the turn of events this week. Suu Kyi has not been a perfect leader by any stretch. Her treatment of the Rohingyas and ethnic minorities has fallen short of any standards we expected of her, but nonetheless, to have the return of the military regime is a disaster for the Burmese and Myanmar people. What I would say, and I disagree with Peter slightly on this, I actually think that international action was very important in bringing the military regime to support democracy, and I think partly that was because they recognised that they were effectively becoming a vassal state of China. So I do think that concerted, combined international action can make a difference, and I hope that no one wants to say everything's the first test for the new Biden administration, but I do hope that the US steps up and leads the efforts in that regard.
Is it... do you have more confidence that might happen under Joe Biden compared to his predecessor?
Well, I think that we'll see a more normal approach from the United States in advocating for democratic values around the world. Donald Trump was an isolationist.
But we need to show leadership as well.
Correct. And
Australia
can play
is a middle power, and in the Indo-Pacific, we have a role to play in leading the way on human rights and on all of these issues, and I think we should do that.
Correct. And Foreign Minister Payne was very early off the mark in expressing Australia's views on these events.